Hey Slingers, welcome back. Now we're in a whole new year. 2019 just kicked off. This is the first Wordslinger podcast of the year. I think you're going to get a lot out of this one. We're going to be talking to MG Herron about pen names, about audiobooks, about collaboration, so stick around.
It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey, happy New Year, Slingers. I'm glad you stuck around for this one. I'm glad you came around for this one, rather. And it's going to be a great interview. I'm talking to Matt M.G. Herron about, among other things, using pen names, creating audiobooks, and, of course, collaboration. Collaboration is big right now in the indie author community, so I know that's going to be a topic everybody's interested in. This is, so far, 2019 is starting off to be a great year. I'm kind of kicking things into overdrive. I'll talk a little about what's going on in my world after the interview. So stick around. Some cool stuff. We got some really cool stuff today. Our guest is pretty accomplished, and I can't wait to share what we went over with you. So I'm not gonna keep you any longer. We're gonna jump right in because I'm so excited about it. So enjoy this interview with Matt M.G. Herron, and be sure to stick around after. We'll have ourselves a nice little conversation. So see you on the other side. Hey everybody, thank you for sticking around through the intro, through whatever random stuff I said at the beginning of the episode. I'm glad that you found this interesting enough to stick around, because you're not going to regret this conversation I'm about to have with Matt M.G. Herron. Did I get that right, Matt? Did I say your last name right? Because I didn't practice beforehand, because I don't practice beforehand for some reason.
You nailed it. Don't worry.
I nailed it. MG Herron, everybody. If you're looking for his work, we're going to be talking about him, his career. Good to have you on the show, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm going to probably, I don't want to confuse the audience. I will probably call you Matt, because that's how I know you.
Absolutely.
But we'll emphasize that if you're looking for his work, everybody, look for MG Herron on Amazon and elsewhere. That way you'll be sure to find him. Nothing like confusing the audience right off the top. So first, thanks for being on. I think I already said that. I appreciate you being here. And why don't we jump in? Let's talk a little bit about what, because you're the author of the Translocator Trilogy. Let's talk about that first. What's the story with the Translocator Trilogy?
Sure. So it's my first sci-fi series. I wrote a standalone novel before it, but this is the first sci-fi series, and it's coming out in audio in 2019, so I'm excited to see that finally happen. I've written the series over the last 3 years, inspired by a trip I took to Chichen Itza in Mexico.
Okay. I wrote about Chichen Itza in my last Dan Collar book.
Yeah, I love that one.
Oh, thanks, man. You're the guy who read it. So do you do is that what a lot of your work is based on?
Well, that series in particular is kind of archaeologically inspired, and I've always kind of been fascinated with myths and legends and the Mayans and the Incas and the ancient cultures in Central and South America anyways, and so it was a natural fit. And then when I went to see the pyramid, my mind just caught fire.
Yeah. It's kind of hard it's really tough to go to places like that and not end up writing something about it.
That's right. It was an incredible trip. We got to swim in a cenote, and then we took tours of the pyramids. It was great. It was great.
Sweet. I have not been able to swim in a cenote. Is it as life-changing as it seems to be?
Oh, I was shocked because the water is 40 degrees. It's so cold.
Yeah.
And you go down this huge set of stairs to get there. We did a full day tour where they picked us up at the resort, and we drove there on a bus, and they took us into the cenote, and it's down this huge set of stairs. And then it's crazy though. In this one, there was a hole in the ceiling, and so there was a giant shaft of light that came in. It was very picturesque. I think I wrote about it on my blog. I have some photos of the actual cenote. It was cool though.
So you worked in this. Now this is an archaeological detail. So how does that work in with sci-fi?
Yeah. So what I did was, it's a little bit inspired by like Stargate, where they go to another planet, and so the real mystery of the series is how this culture got onto this other planet and why the alien that they meet there is there in the first place. So that's
Okay.
kind of like the different conceit, right? And then the main character, Eliana, is an archaeologist, and the story starts where she's like having a really hard time getting funding, and so she's given up hope, and then she stumbles on this thing after an accident, and it changes her whole life.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's I mean, I love Stargate. I was a big
Right.
fan of all the movie and all the series. I
Mhm.
actually hear they're working on a new Stargate. Actually, have you heard about
Really,
that?
that's exciting. They
Yeah, it's
did a
supposed to
web
be.
series last year, right? They did
Well,
like,
maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was the web.
yeah.
I had heard though that they were going to do a new series featuring the daughter of the guy who first discovered
That's right. Yep,
Stargate.
it's the web series. So
That's the web
I
series.
think what they did was they took all of the Stargate properties and put them online in one place. So like if you're a big Stargate nerd like I am, you could go there and just watch any Stargate you want. And they added this new web series, and it was pretty cool. I mean, they're shorter episodes, like 15
Yeah.
minutes, but it's kitschy fun. Definitely, if you're a Stargate fan, you'll appreciate it just because
Yeah.
of the references.
I'll
And,
definitely check it out. I was a big fan. That's a big. I will admit to some influence from. So
Fair enough.
you said that you mentioned that you're finally getting the books into audio. How long have the books been out?
So the first one was published in 2015, and then the second one last year, and then the third one in June of this year. So it's as we record this, November or almost November of 2018. So it came out just a few months ago,
Yeah.
and then Podium is producing the 3 books.
Oh,
right now.
you got a Podium deal. That's pretty good.
I'm very excited. They found a wonderful narrator who's going to do Eliana's voice justice. I'm really stoked.
So how did you end up on the radar of Podium?
Through networking, I knew somebody that had met them and knew them, and they recommended. I'm not even sure how it happened, honestly. I was talking to somebody about it, and they're like, "Oh, well, send me like a pitch deck or something." And then all of a sudden, I get an email from them saying, "Hey, we want to talk to you." And I got on the phone, and like a week later, it was done. So, yeah, it was a fun experience.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I've known some of the folks at Podium, but I've never pitched anything to them. Maybe I should.
Yeah,
Very
I've always
lazy
been
about
inspired
audio.
by them. I saw them, one of the founders I met at Smarter Artist in 2015, which I think you were
Right.
at.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where we
I've
met.
been at all of them, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I haven't. I just went to that one, but I was so lucky because I got to see one of their founders speak, and I just love their process. Like they're super indie friendly, and they do things a little bit differently than a lot of the audio publishers. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a big fan of any process, any resource that comes into the indie fold and enhances it. That's the way I feel about those guys.
That's right.
That's cool. Yeah. So when are the audiobooks coming out?
So January 2019. And I think it's just going to be called the Translocator. So we're going to do them in an omnibus sort of package.
Okay. I see. Yeah.
Get the most deal for your credit, like I know those credits. I'm a subscriber to Audible, and the credits are like $15, and this will be like, 3 full-length novels for one credit.
For one price. Oh, you're bundling the whole thing together.
Yep. That's how they prefer to do it for the a lot of these sci-fi series, especially because like the first book is a little on the short side. Like it's definitely still a full-length novel, but it's a little on the short side. And so, unfortunately, the way that Audible has incentivized the credit system, people don't like short books. Like they want to get the most for their money. Like I'll go use a credit on an epic fantasy any day because it's like 35 hours of audio for one credit. What a deal.
Right. Yeah. That's why we're actively trying to break that credit system.
And I wish you guys luck. I'm so excited about all the different audio offerings and the just distribution expanding in the US has been really cool to watch. And what you guys are doing at Drafted Digital is great.
Yeah, we're working on that. Find a way. They're the real powerhouse behind redefining audio. So I can't wait to see how it all goes. Kelly Lytle and those guys.
Amazing.
Well, that's fantastic, man. Congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
So what's interesting to me is, and the longer I'm in this industry, the more this kind of thing I'm seeing, where the indie author, they start their career, no real direction really, no real goal per se, but then all these opportunities come along. Have you had other opportunities kind of like the Podium deal?
I mean, that's been the major one in my career. Like, I only have 4 novels out right now. I'm working on a new sci-fi series, but as far as indie authors go, 4 books just ain't a lot.
No,
And
right.
so I'm still feel like I'm in the beginnings of it. But I love the way the landscape is changing, and just all these different opportunities that are coming along that weren't even possible 6 years ago or
What are
5.
you seeing? What is getting your attention the most?
So some of the small indie presses that are happening and people being open to more lax deals, like, I've been following the publishing industry for a long time. And historically authors really got gypped out of a lot of the copyright and IP situations. And so,
Right.
and a lot of that was because publishers weren't taking another option, and because they controlled distribution, you either took it or you didn't, and that was
Right.
it. And so now that the distribution has changed, a lot of people are seeing different ways to do business, and that's exciting, right? Because with a different business model really opens things up. And I like to compare it, like, historically to what happened in the pulp era. The magazines opened things up, and the mass market paperback opened
Right.
things up again during the war, and that changed publishing. It's a very similar thing is happening now, and I think it's hard to say what's going to happen in 10 years, but I've just seen all these new indie presses opening, new audiobook options. The Kobo distribution deal with Walmart has been really cool to watch, and that's only happened in the last couple months. So
Right.
I just think that there's so much more options for writers. You could just choose. You don't have to go the one path. There are other paths.
Right. Yeah. I really feel like you mentioned the pulp model there, and I feel like we are the pulp fiction writers of
That's
our
right.
era.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because we're doing the same things. I don't know if you read James Scott Bell's Pulp Fiction.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I love that.
Fantastic book.
Yes.
And I resonated so much with that. I've been trying to get that guy on the show. He's too busy to get on the show. But
really, James Scott Bell's busy? I didn't notice.
Him busy, writing like 20 books a day.
That's incredible.
So yeah, he's but that whole model to me, it so perfectly fit the indie. So I'm gonna write. I swear to you, I'm gonna write the definitive, the silos of self-publishing, because and I'm gonna name them. Because there is the crowd that publishes and sells out of the back of their car. And they only do print, and they don't understand digital and these newfangled e-reading devices. Then there is the self-publisher who understands digital, but treats it more like a possibly paid hobby. And then there's the businessy crowd, the sort of internet marketing crowd.
Yeah.
And I think there's another. I think there's the internet marketing crowd, and there's a Venn diagram where it overlaps with the group I believe I'm in and you're in, which is the more pulp fiction type.
Yeah, genre fiction, mostly genre writers, and yeah.
But cranking it out, getting as many books out as you can, you're working the deals. So, that's fantastic, man. So you've talked. I don't know if we talked at all. I don't think we have. Before you and I started recording, I think you had mentioned something about client work and why you went with MG instead of Matt Herron. And, So what was life before the books? Are you full-time right now, by the way?
No, I'm not full-time. I feel like I live a dual life, like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
But, I have the sci-fi books. I did one nonfiction book as well for writers, like How to Use Scrivener. And then on the other side of my life, I do content strategy for clients. So like I run workshops, I work with small businesses and tech startups, everything from like B2B software to apps. And I help clients with their marketing and content strategy. And so, in many ways, self-publishing was a good fit for me because I already came with some of the marketing skills. Like I knew email marketing, I understand marketing funnels. Like I'm teaching a workshop this week on Friday with just in Austin. People could come. It's a 2-hour workshop, and we're going to go over like the foundations of content strategy. Right. So that's what I do the rest of my time. And the books are like the passion. And I hope one day, I'll be full time with the books. But in the meantime, I love my other job too. So it's hard to choose between them.
I know. Yeah. I had similar. Well, I was not broken up about leaving copywriting, my copywriting business.
Yeah.
Per se,
right?
But I had
you still do marketing at Draft Digital, right?
Yeah. So, I look at Draft Digital as it having saved me from myself. That's the way I look. Because what I did was dump copywriting and start doing books full time, and there was a sort of void in my life There was something of a financial void because the books weren't making quite as much as the copywriting was, but there was also a sort of, it was just me all the time now. There was there were no client lunches. There were no trips to, whatever. So Draft Digital gives me all of that, but I'm working in a community I love instead of writing for oil and gas or,
Yeah. Yeah. What you said about the interaction with people is really important. I think that's something that indie authors don't often talk about enough, is that the need for human interaction. And if you're just stuck behind a keyboard all day long without interacting with people, how that affects your personality, like it affects burnout, it affects so many aspects of your life. And if you're a writer and that's all you do, you need to figure out some way to bring the other aspects of like a human existence into your little bubble, right? Because if you're just sitting at home typing on a keyboard, like, is that really living?
Yeah. Honestly, if I were not doing the Draft to Digital gig, I would probably do the co-working spaces. You've seen these? There's one in Seattle called Novel. And I'm like, how freaking perfect is that?
That is cool. I don't think there's any writer-focused ones in Austin, but I do work out of co-working space. I've been members of them. I actually met some of my best friends at co-working space. My wife and I met at a co-working space, if you could believe it.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah, true story. In Austin, we met in 2012.
Okay, all right. See, and you and I are not that far from each other. I could wander up to Austin. That's what I'm trying to. That's what 2019 is going to be for me, by the way.
Oh yeah. Go back on the road.
Get back on the road. I'm on the road a lot for Draft Digital, but now I'm going to start taking some trips. These are just
very cool.
Purely writing, getting to places. I'll start with Austin. There's like 100 of us in Austin.
It's true. There's a bunch of people here. I also have a meetup in Austin. So there's like 1,000 writers in this meetup in Austin. You'd never believe that the community was this large if you didn't know it. I mean, that's one of the most amazing things about indie publishing too, is that there's communities everywhere. Yeah. Except Houston.
Really? Man, I have tried. I've got maybe 5 authors in the area that.
No way. Do you think that's because Houston's so spread out?
I do. Because I say Houston and I don't actually live in Houston. I live in Sugar Land. And Houston, it'll take you 3 hours to drive across Houston.
Yeah.
And you still won't be out in Houston.
Yeah, it's a strangely constructed city in that it's just like a mass of suburbs that sprawls forever.
When they say greater Houston area, they really mean Texas.
I mean, the greater Houston area is larger than many small countries.
That's exactly right, man. That's exactly what it is. All right. I don't want to talk about Houston. So you've got. I think it's fascinating that you met your wife at a co-working space.
Yeah, maybe I should write a novel about that.
You should do that. Totally, you should do that. So okay, I want to talk about, because you went with M.G. Herron, and you told me a little bit before we started why you did that. Let's talk about that, because there are authors who struggle with pen names, for example.
Yeah. Yep. Well, so here's how I feel about pen names and about branding in general, right? Brand is basically just other people's perception of you. It's your reputation. It's a fancy marketing word for reputation. Right. You can build a brand out of any name. You just have to be conscious of how other people perceive you. So for me at the time, I was doing client work under Matt Herron. I had articles published in newspapers under Matt Herron. I didn't want to confuse people. And also I wanted to be unique, like in the search results. Now, at the same time, I had the Twitter handle MG Herron, because I couldn't get Matt Herron. And then I bought the domain name mgherron.com. And I was like, well, I guess it's meant to be. And so I decided to go all in on that. So my books are under MG Herron rather than Matt Herron. But, equally, I could have gone with Matt Herron. I think it would have been fine. I could have gone with Matthew G. Herron. It could have been fine. But, one of the reasons that I did choose MG Herron was I've always, I grew up reading J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and these other authors. And MG Herron just seemed to have a nice ring to it for this genre, sci-fi fantasy. So I thought, what the hell? I'll do it. And it's worked out fine. I definitely don't have any regrets. I also, though, because I write sci-fi and fantasy under one name, like some authors would have said, oh, well, you could split out the fantasy. My feeling on this is actually that traditional publishing in the past has forced people down these different pen name paths. And I've even seen authors who used to have 2 pen names, one for one subgenre and one for another, merge them and become one.
Yeah.
Now that said, if you're writing YA novels and you're writing erotica, maybe you should consider having a different pen name for that, because they're wildly different audiences with different expectations. But for the most part, we were talking about James Scott Bell, he writes genre fiction and his writing books under his same name. I think he's doing fine. So, anything is possible. And the thing is that you just have to follow through with it and think about why you're doing what you're doing. This is what I tell my clients when we talk about brand on the content strategy side too, is as long as you understand why you're doing it and your intent is good, anything will work out. But do what you're comfortable with. Some people don't feel like putting themselves out there in the world. That's fine. Use a pen name. No problem.
Yeah, I started my writing career as J.K. Tomlinson, and I admit I was trying to capture some of that J.K. Rowling money.
Yeah.
I figured,
at least you're honest about it.
Look, I will cop to pulling some of the tricks. I have a book called The Atlantis Riddle. Okay, I will admit that title came out of a joke about capturing A.G. Riddle's audience a little, but. I'm not above these tricks.
That's great. I didn't know that tidbit about
yeah, that's a little bit of trivia for you.
Search engine optimization is very smart.
That's right. And it seems to have worked for me so far.
So why did you switch when you switched from J.K. Tomlinson to?
You know why? Because I like my name. I wanted my name. I like, call me a narcissist, call me whatever you want. But I want to be able to walk into a room and say, oh, that's Kevin Tomlinson. He writes thrillers. Yeah. I wrote under J.K. Tomlinson and J. Kevin Tomlinson for a while.
Interesting.
The J. Kevin Tomlinson has stuck more than anything. I still get calls and references and emails and things addressed to J. Kevin Tomlinson. And I'm okay with that. And it was the same sort of deal.
Yeah.
J.R.R. Tolkien, it was that sort of deal. So I thought it lent some prestige to the name, but it also felt a little too formal for my brand because, I'm all about cracking jokes, wearing bow ties, wearing no pants, that sort of thing, Wordslinger, that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
But there you go. Yeah. So cool. Yeah. No, I agree with you fully that you can turn anything into a brand. The example for me was I made many, many years ago, I made one joke about pants being a funny word, and that became part of my brand forever.
Nice.
Whether I wanted it to or not. So.
Yeah. When you think about the big brands in the world, what does Nike mean to a person now? Doesn't mean the Greek or Roman god anymore. It means sportswear. What's Apple mean? It's an Apple, but it's also a computer brand. So people just learn to associate it in your mind. So, with the meetup group that I have here in Austin, where I talk to indie authors all the time, this is a common concern. And I just think that people are overthinking it, Go with what your gut says. And look, you can change it later if you want to.
Well, I know there's been some concern about brand contamination, right? So if I write sci-fi and I also want to write romance, I've got some brand contamination because now I'm writing two different genres. I could see a case made for that, but I also think that these days it's unimportant. And I think your indicator species is authors like James Patterson, who are out writing every genre.
That's true.
And the brand is the name. So I really do think, I don't know, how do you feel about that? Do you think people are following the author more than the genre?
Absolutely. In fact, I think in the future, that's the only way that people are going to be able to separate themselves from the herd, is being personal about it.
I agree with that. I 1000% agree with that. That's exactly my philosophy. That's one of the reasons why I switched to using my name. I know that things can go south and can go foul. People don't like my politics, or people don't like my comments about something or whatever. And so everything could go down the toilet. But I'd rather ride that wave and make my name the brand. So yeah, that's clever. Okay. But so you say you have no regrets then about the MG?
No, not at all.
But you don't necessarily want people calling you MG.
I'm okay with it too. It's just awkward for other people because they're like, your name is what? MG? But on the other hand, my name's Matt. It's a very common name. I grew up in first grade, I had 6 Matts in my class. I don't think that's necessarily going to differentiate me as much as MG. I actually think MG might be a stronger name for my author brand. Like, who
No,
knows?
yeah, no, I think it's got some. I think it's got character. I'll give it to you.
All right.
I know you didn't ask my opinion on that.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate
welcome to it anyway. Opinions come free on this show. So you're writing sci-fi. You got another series coming, you said.
That's right.
What's the premise here? Or do you want to reveal?
No, I'll reveal it. It's called The Gun Files. I've been working on it for over a year. And it's a sci-fi mystery. So you can kind of think X-Files, like the Brothers Grimm, but the sci-fi version. It's about a bounty hunter in Austin, of all places. Of course, my home in Austin. I love this place. But it's inspired by the weirdness of Austin. And he's a bounty hunter who discovers aliens exist. And so he's just dealing with that and trying to stay alive. So, yeah, I've been developing this series for a little while, hoping to release the first one early next year.
Okay. And so you're pretty close.
I'm pretty close. I am 2.5 books in.
Are you pre-writing the series, or are you writing?
My plan was I was committing to 3.
Yeah.
And, I hope they go well and I can write the other 3. But I wanted to have 3 in my pocket done so that I could do like a rapid release.
I think that's smart. That's what I'm telling people. And I'm practicing what I'm preaching now. I haven't done this in the past. I haven't practiced what I preach, but I'm writing a series now.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's hard. It's so hard to hold these books in. Yeah. Like I've already sent the first one out to beta readers. They, responded really positively, helped me make it a little bit better. But then to sit on it for months is really difficult. But on the other hand, I want to give it the chance it deserves. And I think that in this landscape, like a rapid release, where I can have 3 done, I can get everything lined up ahead of time and then start releasing them while I write the 4th one and give myself some space because, historically I've always just written it and published it, written it, published it, written it, and published it. And there was no real for somebody who's a content strategist and helps businesses with their marketing strategy, I think I need to take some of my own advice, and part of this is learning my writing process, and part of it is learning the book launch strategy and how to launch a book and how to market a book, which is maybe a little bit different than marketing a business. But I don't know. We'll see if it works.
I don't think it's all that different though. This is what I've been asked a lot recently, and Chris Syme asked me on her show recently what I thought the next wave would be for author marketing. And my answer was content marketing. And this is not a new thing. We know what content marketing is, but I think authors haven't fully embraced it the way they could. And I think that's going to differentiate you from, because you can spend a ton of money on Facebook ads, Amazon marketing ads, etc., book club and all that.
So to talk about content marketing, I think the best approach to content marketing for an author is to regular releases or a scheduled release or a well-planned out launch is really the best content marketing. Like people talk about content marketing like authors haven't been doing it for years. Like your book is your content.
That's right.
So a good strategy with your release plan is actually good content marketing for authors. But I agree with you about the lack of authors being out there in the world in other ways, like through podcasts, through, authors have always written. And do you think this is a factor of authors just being a little introverted, or do you think it's something else?
I think there's some of that because you're afraid to get yourself out there. And when you start looking at what content marketing has been traditionally, I think a lot of authors balk at it because it's a lot more work.
It's marketing. It's not writing.
It's marketing, right? But I think that these things can work really well together. I'm creating content. I'm going to create a second podcast that is all the content I gather when I'm researching my archaeological thrillers. So I'll do content that leads back to my primary content. I think authors have an opportunity. I think it's all about thinking creatively.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about the idea of doing a podcast. I think I don't want to commit to it because it's such a commitment, like long term.
It's a time suck.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that, and maybe this is why authors don't put themselves out there, is they're afraid it'll take time away from the writing, which is a valid concern. And also I'm a big proponent of don't start something you can't finish, right? So if you can't commit to it, maybe it's not for you, but I guarantee that'll work for you.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think it will. And I think authors, I think what happens is authors think that when I become a successful, I'm sorry, I'm shaking my camera. When I become a successful author, I'm so excited. I'm literally shaking. I'm going to walk away from everything, right? I think that's the biggest mistake authors make is that they get a little bit of success They go full in thinking if I have nothing but time to write, then I can write for like 8 to 10 hours a day and my output will explode. And what they end up doing is freaking out balls after leaving their work, even if they're financially safe.
Yep.
They freak out because they don't have all those things that made them feel secure, and they end up not writing at all. And they end up, having to crawl back to a full-time job because they can't survive. And I think if you start focusing on other things besides just your writing, because every business has multiple pieces. Yeah,
that's right.
The marketing is another piece, and most authors think that marketing means Facebook ads. So I think if they were to focus on something like content marketing, they'd be more fulfilled and more successful. End of Kevin's soapbox on that. Let's get back to you, Matt.
Well, it's an interesting question. And as somebody who works in marketing, it's something I think about a lot. I do think it's easier to do content marketing for nonfiction than for fiction. That's the challenge that I've been trying to overcome with my own brand is how do you do effective content marketing for fiction that's going to lead to book sales?
Related content. You've got it. You did a book about the Chichen Itza and the pyramids, and you did all that, right? Start presenting some of that content as interesting articles that you share and short stories. Right. There's all kinds of things you could do around that content.
Yeah. It's an exciting time. I mean, I don't know if I have the time, but it is an exciting time that you can do this stuff and build your business that way. It's cool. Yeah, no,
I do agree that it's going to be time consuming, but I think it's time well spent because it's marketing time. It's, it's time with purpose instead of, I just want to create a podcast because I have some friends who have podcasts and it sounds cool, Or I'm going to create a podcast aimed at authors, even though I don't want to be, in the business of that
one is a sticky trap for a lot of people.
Of course it worked out for me because it helps with Draft to Digital. So I turned it into something, but I can tell you firsthand, if I'd created content that was aimed at the reader, I would have been better off sooner as far as marketing my own work. Yeah. So what is your primary tool for marketing? What do you focus on when you're marketing your work?
So the email list is probably the major thing that I've worked on growing the last year. That's been really helpful. I try to do like book recommendations in my genre to the email list too, and they seem to really enjoy those. Not only because they get to discover new authors, but oftentimes because there are sales on and stuff that they wouldn't have found otherwise. So that's been a really big thing. I have not had much success with social media. I do some like paid advertising, but I've just been pulled back on it while I'm focusing on the new series. So I think like email list and the other thing is networking. Just getting to know authors in my genre is super helppful.
Do you do like newsletter swaps and things like that?
I have. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's effective. I know, and maybe there are some who might argue that it's less effective now than it used to be, but I actually think it's still pretty effective.
There's probably some truth to that. Like it's not a big lever in your marketing, but every little bit counts. And so if it's a lever you can pull, why wouldn't you, as long as it's, something that you're giving value in exchange for value. I think when those things don't work is when it's like, gimme, and you're not actually giving anything back.
Right.
Not providing value. And that's like the essential thing, marketing or networking in general. You want to provide value first, rather than just taking.
Yeah. And I like, and I'm pretty picky about what I'll send out to my list. It has to relate to them directly, but I have, I sent out, David Behrens has a new book releasing, Temple of the Snake.
That sounds right up your genre.
It's exactly it's even misplaced history, just like my archaeological thrillers. So I sent out that book to my list this morning because I know that they're going to love that book because they like my books.
Yep.
And it doesn't directly benefit me financially, but what it does is create goodwill with those readers. They know that they can trust me to recommend good books, even when they're not my books. So I'm not selling to them. I don't make anything from it. And I'm not telling them you must go buy this, but I'm telling them you'll be interested in this because if you liked my stuff, you'll like David's book.
Yeah. See, I think that's great marketing.
Yeah. Are you doing stuff kind of like that?
Yeah, I focus really mostly on the space opera sci-fi genre, which is kind of where my books sit, although they're a little weird because they're like no like starship captains in the Translocator series, but they do kind of fall under that Stargate-y sort of thing. So anything that is like that, or that seems to have like a Stargate sort of inspired element, I try to share that with them. Also, like my main character is a strong female protagonist who also happens to be an archaeologist. So anything that hits those tropes, I'd be happy to share. I try to vet for quality too, make sure that it's good stuff that I would read. But beyond that, I think it's good to help them discover new authors. And, I've heard from my readers, they really seem to love it.
Yeah. Well, it's that community thing.
That's right.
And you're folding the readership into the community, which can only benefit everybody. So it's good, man. Yeah. Good work on your marketing. Good work.
Oh, thank you.
Once again, you did not ask my opinion, but I give it freely. So you got the new series coming up. Your pre-writing thing. That's good. That's good. I know how hard that is, man. Trust me. Trust me. I got a whole catalog full of books now that I are sort of waiting to be released, and it's killing me.
Really?
Yeah. Because I've been chugging away, and well, I'll tell you what I'm doing to kind of release that a little is I'm releasing. That's where the content marketing thing started, because I'm creating things that get out there that, one, help promote my other books, but two, give me a creative outlet with feedback the way I need it, while I'm also using this other creative outlet to create more books.
Yeah, love it.
That's where that started. All right, man. Well, we're coming up close to time here. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. What else you got happening besides the new books coming up soon?
I mean, I think that's really my main focus right now. Got the audiobook in January of 2019, and then shortly after, I hope to have the first of the new series ready. And just kind of go from there, building out the sci-fi backlist under MG Herron. So
fantastic, man. I'm really looking for you on the USA Today bestsellers list.
I hope you're not looking for too long, Kevin.
I'm staring. I keep staring. I hit refresh every few minutes. Looking for MG Herron. All right, man. Well, great. That's fantastic. I wish you all the luck in the world on that stuff. I know what you're going through. Believe me. So, and you do good work. So I'm sure they'll sell well.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. Yeah. All right. And to everybody else, right now, you are hearing the groovy bridge music. You may dance in place at will. But be sure in your dancing that you stick around, because afterwards I got my little bit of afterword, and we'll chat. You're also going to want to hear this ad that's going to play like right now. So I'll see you on the other side.
Hear your book the way it was meant to be heard, with a fully custom soundtrack based on your material, an album of music that perfectly fits your characters, your settings. Hear your book today. SonataInscribe.com.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Matt Herron. I know I enjoyed it, both the first time and the second time. Lots there to unpack. A term, by the way, that I've been told we need to use a lot less in 2019, unpacking things. Sorry, I slipped it in there. So thanks for sticking around, by the way, because this is the part of the show where I get to kind of just chat with you. We can enjoy each other's company. So there may not be a ton to learn from this part of the show, but I'm hoping you'll take inspiration from it. My good friend Roland Denzel complimented me on Facebook by recommending the Wordslinger podcast to someone who was asking for recommendations, and he said, for the way he gave a list. Some shows were great for learning the basics of writing, learning the business of writing, and for the Wordslinger podcast, he said that it was good for motivation and inspiration. And at first, I looked at it and thought, well, how come I'm not good for the business of writing and the basics of writing? And I realized why, and and I agreed with him is where I'm going to land on this, because it's true. I don't get into the nitty gritty of like how to write, how to build a career per se. My guests can talk about that stuff, and we'll go into details. And I want to find those gems and nuggets for you. But this show really is about inspiration and motivation, and in fact, that's part of the mission statement of the show: to inform and inspire, educate and entertain. That's the Wordslinger mission. So it's good. It's getting through. So anyway, Roland's a great guy. I have a character name for him in my Dan Kotler thriller series. Roland Denzel is a key principal character, a secondary protagonist. So there you go. So thanks, Roland. And now I want to talk a little bit about, because over the past couple of months, now we've taken a hiatus here, which I normally do. As Christmas and the New Year come around, things get pretty busy for me all around, and I generally take some time off from the show. And I hate to do that because, it's our way of connecting, and it's my part in the community. So I don't like to go too long. There have been some gaps over the past couple of years, but over the past month, so starting in November, I really felt convicted about something. So in terms of my writing career, so basically what happened was I started writing a book in January last year, and I got kind of sidetracked. I got discouraged, actually. That's really what happened. I got discouraged because I felt like I was just writing the same stuff over and over again. I felt like maybe I needed to explore other avenues. I was frustrated that things weren't breaking as quickly as I wanted them to. I was making a really good income from these books, but I was not hitting the next level. And I think I've talked to quite a few authors now who feel the same way. At NINC, I spoke with Diane Capri, for example. She feels the same way. She's doing very well with her series, and it's got a tie-in with Lee Child. I mean, it's got his approval. She's writing in his universe, and she still feels like she's not hitting the next level. And, I had to define what next level meant in order to be able to grasp what's going on here. Over the course of a year, I didn't cease writing. I actually wrote at least 2 more books over that year, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. But what I didn't do was finish that Dan Kotler book that I started back in January. And the sad part is, in January, I had determined that I'm going to release a book a month. That's what I think I probably even said it on the show. And I didn't. I completely bombed that. And it felt, the pressure of that got to me, and I started feeling a little depressed about some things and started feeling some anxiety about a few things. I'm telling you this because I want you to know, because I know this happens to other people. I know that other authors experience this. So I wanted to let you know that was happening to me as well, and it gets to you. So what ended up happening, I go to hundreds, dozens, tens, fives, whatever. I go to a lot of conferences, and throughout the year, starting in like July, August, September area, I go to a few that are mostly in Florida. And, I meet other authors, I hang out, I learn some things, I share drafted digital stuff. And so it's a great opportunity to connect more with the community. But I was starting to feel kind of run down by that too. And then I went to a conference in November. I went to the 20 Books in Vegas conference. And right now there are 20 books in Bali. So I'm not at that one. So enjoy, Dan. Dan Wood is there representing Drafted Digital. It's okay, because this was a tight time of year for me anyway. But at that conference in Las Vegas, I don't know, it was the right crowd. It was the right people. I was learning from the right people, connecting to the right people, sharing drafted digital stuff. But I had a number of people come up to me who knew me from Wordslinger podcast and who knew I was an author myself. And it was nice for once to have a crowd of people who recognized me for my own work. Well, I got inspired, and I revisited this book that had been sitting there, waiting for me to get back to it. And there was some dread and a lot of anxiety about it. It was a topic I wasn't entirely enthusiastic about. I just have no interest in Antarctica, although now I have a greater interest in Antarctica. Now that I've finished the book and I've started looking closer, I had all this research and everything, and I'm starting to realize, I could probably get more books out of this continent, and some really good ones. But I was feeling overwhelmed by it and decided that the only answer to that was to just buckle down and get back to it. That meant going back, starting again, and I had this process that I was starting to develop of taking the content I've written, the scenes, exporting them as Word documents, importing those into Grammarly, so that I don't lose formatting, right? Because when you cut and paste into Grammarly, you lose italics and things like that. That's very annoying. And there may be a better process for this. If you know it, let me know. But spitting that into Grammarly, and then I'd do my edits and rewrites in Grammarly. Doing it that way helped me get back into the rhythm, get back into the story, and also improve the manuscript, frankly. So I started kind of pushing my way through it, and it was a heads down kind of thing. And then I finished the book between November and December, I think I started actually November 15th, I believe was the date that I started back on the book, and I released it on December 15th. So in a month, it was completed, edited, run through my street team, and published. So, and then it broke my it was the first to break my pre-sale record, my pre-order record. That was pretty amazing. And then it is currently the pre-order record. So that put me on track, gave me some momentum. And as soon as I finished the writing and I was doing all the publishing and everything, I didn't stop writing. I started writing the next book. And that book will release now. So December 15th was the Antarctic Forgery. The new book, The Stepping Maze, is the next one. That's going to release January 25th. I would have done it earlier in January, but with the holidays, I wanted to give everyone enough breathing room between all the purchases they made and the chaos of the holidays, so that they could pre-order The Stepping Maze. And that book is sailing up there with pre-orders as well. It's doing pretty well. It was in the top 20 of historic thrillers for quite a while there, alongside Antarctic Forgery. For the first time that I'm aware of, I had 3 titles in the top 100 in historic thrillers. Of course, Ernie Dempsey had 6, but he also works for it. And I wasn't quite working for it. I was just selling. I was just putting the books out there and making them available. So all that's happened. And I finished, by implication, a second book around the time that I was releasing Antarctic Forgery. I was essentially head down, and I got the book written and finished well before Christmas. So I was able to announce the pre-order and everything, the title, the cover. I did all the reveals. I did that in stages. And the book is with my street team right now, and they're giving me the final edits. And they're good. These things are turning out pretty well. So I got a nice little workflow going, I think. A nice process. And then I started the next book. Now, the next book was more challenging, and I'll get into why in a later episode, because I don't want to reveal anything about it just yet. I'm about 10,000 words in, so I've got some time. But that's good progress. I mean, I've only been writing it for about a little over, maybe less than 2 weeks. I should be further ahead, but the holidays, I did take I did take a day off, but no, I didn't. Come to think of it, I did not take any days off. I have consistently written every day. I just haven't always hit my typical word count, and I've decided that that's fine. In this stage of my writing, I've decided that my word target goals are not as important as making sure that I'm writing every day. And some days I write 10,000 words, and some days I write 1,000 words. And I'm going to be okay with that. I do have my target for the day is usually 2,500. I set a target. It used to be 5K. I used to consistently hit 5K. I could still do that, But what I'm finding is I'm enjoying this more relaxed pace, and I'm excited about the work again. I'm enthusiastic about the work. Rather than dreading it and it being a drudgery, I'm allowing myself to have fun with it, and so I'm continuously adding to it. There are other challenges that are coming up, and by sticking to my guns and sticking to my, commitment, my workflow, the challenges sort of solve themselves. So all that's all happening. So I've got a new book coming out. I just released one. That was December. I've got a new one for January. It looks pretty likely that I'll have one for February. I've decided this year that I'm not going to set that sort of goal of like a book a month, and instead I've determined that I'm going to write every day, and the consequence of writing every day is that I end up with more books to release. Now, I pretty much wrote every day anyway, but sometimes it wasn't focused. If I allowed myself to get distracted or anxious or intimidated, overwhelmed, I might shift gears, and instead of writing the book I'm working on, I'd start another book. And that's how I ended up with. I've got like 3 books sitting and waiting for me to get back to them and edit them that have nothing to do with the Kotler series. But I have this goal for my Dan Kotler thrillers to have, I want to hit the magic number for me is 12. I want to hit 12 of those books so that I can start taking them wide as I release more over the course of the next year, and I write more over the course of the next year. And I want to get a nice, strong, steady flow of books coming into Kindle Unlimited, spending their 90 days, and then going wide. And so my goal is to always have some books in KU, because that's right now, that's where my money's coming from. And it's significant. The numbers have gone up. That's been the most fun part about this, honestly, is watching those numbers just start to go. With each new book, the numbers go up. And so there's a lot to recommend this strategy. I need to just pull this together. Maybe in a blog post, maybe in a book. I'm not sure yet what form this is going to take, but I need to pull this all together. I'm even thinking about maybe doing some kind of video series where I'm not distracting myself from my writing by doing different writing, and instead I'm creating content in a new way. We'll see. So, but there's a lot that's happening there. My philosophy, like I don't really like the whole New Year's resolution thing. Not because honestly, I rarely keep the resolutions. I guess I'd prefer New Year's commitment, maybe, but I'm not a big fan of commitment either. Because I'm a guy. No, the whole commitment thing is difficult only because things change. You need to be flexible. So I guess I need to come up with a definition of it. I need to sit down and do my New Year's planning. That's what I need to do. I need to plan things out. And one of those things can involve creating a definition for what I'm committing to here, what I'm doing. Basically, what I need is processes. I need routines. I need a routine. I like New Year's routines. That's where I'll land on that for now. And the routine is something you repeat consistently to get the result you're after, but you also adjust as needed. So I like that better. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to kind of give you a breakdown of where things are. We had a great Christmas, great New Year, and we had a low-key New Year. We didn't go out. We didn't do anything fancy. We watched a movie, which is what Karen and I like to do now. Some interesting news on the RV front. I've moved that. I think I've told you this. I moved it to Florida. There's a place called Luxury RV Rental. If you're looking for an RV, they have several to rent, and they start there in Florida. So if you got a Disney vacation, I highly recommend going to Fort Wilderness and Disney. It is, in my opinion, that and the Boardwalk Inn, are the 2 best resorts at Disney. But the cool thing about what I love about Fort Wilderness is, first of all, it's the only pet-friendly resort. So you can bring your dog, your cat, whatever. They have a pet care that you can put them in for the day. It has cameras so that you can see your pets on your phone while you're riding, and while you're at Epcot or whatever. But it's just, to me, I love being in nature, and it's just, you're encased in it there, and you're also among another community that I really love as much as the indie author community, and that's the RV community. And these campers, and people are there camping in tents. They're in their truck campers. They're in pop-ups. They're in large RVs like ours. Anyway, I highly recommend it. And you can rent that from Luxury RV Rental if you go find that. Go and when you approach them, tell them you want Kevin Tumlinson's RV. They have several, but that tell them you want that one. Let them know you heard about them through me, and you want to rent them. The guy who runs the place, Robert, is really cool. So go check that out. But we've been renting the RV out for the past several months anyway. It just became overwhelming to do it through Outdoorsy. Unfortunately, if I wanted to do that as a full-time gig, I could have. We were making great money, and it was real easy to rent. But the overhead of maintaining the RV, and which includes the time to maintain the RV, was just getting out of hand. So handing it over to a service that manages all that for us was really convenient. So that's where the RV is right now. We're probably going to get, at some point I'm thinking about getting either, I'm looking at solutions. I'm looking at a variety of solutions. I think a van is kind of the front runner right now. And speaking of RV vans, the Russos, Joe and Kate Russo, who have been on this show twice before, they have their YouTube channel about van life. They are on their way here right now. I mean, it's Friday morning. they're gonna swing by, and we're gonna hang out for the day. So they're here in the Houston area. It's gonna be great to see them. I haven't seen them for since April. They were here in April, and we met on the day that Karen and I were moving into this new place. So it'll be good to see those guys. Anyway, that's it. We're going to wrap up. I know we're running a little long, but I feel like this is the most fun I get to have with you guys. So, and I get to talk about my stuff a little. So I hope you're taking care of yourselves. Get out there and make sure you're writing every day. That's the key. I know it sounds hard, but you can find the time, even if you're writing 100 words a day. 50 words a day. I mean, that's you're basically writing a text message a day, but every little chip in the stone helps to reveal the statue of David. So get out and start chipping. Just start writing every single day. You'll be shocked at the progress you can make. So, and you can improve over time. So take care of yourselves. God bless you. Make sure you subscribe to this show on iTunes, on Stitcher. Leave reviews wherever you can, on YouTube as well. And that's it. We'll talk to you next time. God bless. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Wordslinger podcast. Now, you can support this show by visiting wordslingerpodcast.com. That's where you're going to find back episodes, books by me, and links to anything and everything Wordslinger. And be sure to subscribe to this show on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and anywhere else fine podcasts are sold. I'm Kevin Tumlinson. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.